You know what I come to realize about a lot of us is that we like gifts. We love gifts, but yet we don't like to do the work for it. We like to reap from something that we did not sow. See, we like the giver, which is God, but we don't want to come in relationship with him. We can care less about even getting to know him. See, none of us is deserving of anything that we receive from the Lord. He's just generous in grace, and due to his grace and due to his uncompassionate and unmatched love that he has for us, he don't mind giving us good things. He wants his children to have good things. But have you ever sat down and did an assessment of, am I just a taker? Do I really try to sow seeds in order to reap the harvest at a later date? Or do I just come to God when I choose to? Do I show up when it's convenient for me? And then I leave when I either get what I want or he don't answer. Or he give me an answer and that's not the answer that I was expecting. That's not the answer I wanted. So I'm going right back to not having a relationship with God. You cannot manipulate God. God will not and cannot be manipulated. This is why it's important to always assess your heart posture. So when the storms of life come, and they will, you know where your foundation is, and it's set up on the word of God. It's set up on a firm foundation. It's built on rocks and not sand. And another thing, we have to stop looking to God and coming to God when it's only convenient for us and when we're looking for something to get up out of him. He cannot be manipulated, and it speaks a lot for your character. It speaks a lot where your spiritual maturity stands currently. Everybody can be molded. Everybody can be spiritually mature. You just have to be willing to get there. And again, a lot of us fall by the wayside on the way from glory to glory because guess what? He's not answering in a time we want to, or he didn't give me what I asked him for, or he said no, or he's just maybe said not yet. But due to your impatience and due to you want to pick something that you did not even sow, you just leave. You turn your back on God. And he's so generous in grace, and he's so generous and so compassionate with everything that he does for us. Because time and time again, how many of us honestly have walked out the will of God? We have turned our back on him, and he stood right there waiting for us to come back with open arms. No questions to be asked, with open arms. So if you want good things, if you expect great things, I can tell you where to find it. I'm going to always point you right back to God. But you got to be willing to do the work. You got to be willing to sow. What are you willing to give up? What are you really willing to sow in order to reap a harvest at a later date? And everything ain't always physical. What about your spiritual? What about your mental capacity to be able to really get to know the character of God? Because a lot of us, we always miss that mark. Who is God? We need to really get to know the character of God for ourselves, because we start off learning it, who the character is and who God is to our family. But we should always mature spiritually enough to know him for ourselves. And again, God is a gift giver. He loves his children to have good and great things. But again, what are you sowing in order to reap a harvest from? What are you putting out in order to receive back? Go back and do an assessment over your heart posture and straighten it up if it needs to be straightened up. All of us have room to grow. The greatest speaker among us have room to grow. We will never stop growing as long as we're on this side of the earth. So you can harvest later. Don't be going to just God just because I want this and I want that. That's a selfish heart, them selfish ambitions. And you can't hide it from God, because God cannot and will not be manipulated. Straighten up yourself. Put in the work. Put in the work for yourself. Put in the work for your relationship with God, because he's worth it. You're worth it. Your spiritually maturity is worth it. If it fall off from you in the process, it wasn't meant for you in the get-go. Sow into your life, your spiritual life. Sow into your children. Sow into your ministry. Whatever it is that God is calling you to do, you do it. So you can reap a harvest later. However that look, whatever form it come in. But just know if it come from God, that it's going to be great. What are you sowing? What are you sowing in order to reap the benefits of it later? Y'all keep the faith. I love y'all, and God bless.